Well, hello. Back to building Cobi models. I just completed a T34-85 in 1/35th scale. Now, if you watch the videos on YouTube of other people that make these, especially the one that does the speed builds, I was kind of like, wasn't sure if I was going to get it or not until I just took the plunge and bought it. And probably one of the easiest Cobi tanks that I've built. And in terms of detail, really, really good. I have a similar size T34-85 blue box diecast 1/32 scale Ultimate Soldier, or whatever they called it. And I actually think this one looks better. Probably because I built it, but that's just my little thing. Let me show this. Instructions were pretty good. There was nothing confusing in here. But my next video, I built another F5. There was a bit of confusion in that one because, like I said, that was the one, like the American one that I built, where 16 little bags, you gotta dump them in a big pile and pick parts. But back to this one. Instructions were good with this. And if any of you out there build these, I don't know, if you want to save them as collectibles, save the boxes, don't ever get rid of these. These, I think, are just awesome instructions. So if you have a bunch of these and you decide you want to get rid of the boxes because of clutter, I'd get rid of them, but don't get rid of these. Basic overall reflections or stuff, I had fun. I actually did. I wasn't confused. I didn't have to redo stuff on it. It was very enjoyable. And actually, give me a minute here. I have to open up the one hatch. There it goes. It has two hatches. See the engine there? That way, or give me another second. They're always tricky to get off. Where's my get off tool? Usually I have specific tools I use, but I just have this to pull it off. Nice and easy. The engine bay is phenomenal. Very highly detailed V2 12-cylinder engine. Different exhausts from a T34-76, and the driver just came out. Driver figure with a Tokarev pistol. And let me put it back in here. The engine part, the hatch. And the grab iron handles on the hatch actually work for taking it off. I have to applaud them. I've seen one of the older models where it does not have the engine that has a higher level of detail this one has, and this was far superior. Shouldn't say so much. 85 millimeter long range gun. Longer the barrel, the longer the range, the more accurate the shot. And about this tank. Originally, this came out in 1940, used a 76 millimeter gun, and it had basically a two-man turret. It was very cramped because of the sloped armor and just not refined. It was mass-produced. Well, when the Germans put the longer 75 millimeter gun on the Panzer IV, and they came out with the Panther eventually and the Tiger, the Russians needed to find a way to counter it. And the medium tanks, which wound up becoming your main battle tanks now, getting rid of the designator of heavy tank, were your main thing. We had the Sherman, they had the T34. What they did was they made the mantle bigger, so a bigger turret, a 3-man turret could be fitted in it, and ergonomics improved, and the interior space and stuff improved a bit. Not much, because this is kind of a cramped tank, but they try to make it more livable and made the tank a little bit more reliable as far as being a platform for fighting the German tanks. Overall, they didn't care about the reliability, I think. They built so many, I think they built 80,000 of these, but these T34-85s were definitely improved big time from the T34-76. And it also had a radio in it, so they can communicate via intercom. They had a radio to communicate. And basic Soviet doctrine was have these tanks running with fighter planes and attack planes supporting them as they went against the German tanks. And a Tiger tank versus this thing could hit it. This gun could go right through the armor plating just like the 76mm and a Sherman could. Armor-wise, I don't know. I mean, it's got some weak points in it, but it's got some strong points. But this tank is fast and mobile like a Sherman. You get a bunch of these fighting a bunch of Tiger tanks or Panther tanks at a good range because it's a long-range gun. These things could do maximum devastation. When you consider you had 16 of these beautiful tanks, to every one Panther or Tiger out on the range, out fighting in the Eastern Front, I would say that your odds are pretty good in your favor. The armor on this thing, like I said, is pretty good. The mobility was good and the speed's good. I mean, this thing could fly on a field. And the Russians did a lot of battles with this tank. I mean, because of the numbers and the way they adapted tactics to use it, made a pretty good weapon against the Germans. And the Germans could not outproduce it. And that is the biggest thing. The Germans had fancy tanks with a lot more sophistication, but this thing is hard hitting and get the job done. And you've got so many of them. Something breaks on this one, you get parts, you put it on, bring another one up. And that's the thing of when you mass produce on that scale. And basically this tank has always been a good tank as far as design and stuff. There were some crudities about it, but they did try to improve it as they went along. And when these tanks were built in Czechoslovakia and Poland after the war, those are actually better than the Russian versions because they're a little bit more quality and put in, and they did some kind of improvements on their own, make them a better tank to use. And they usually gave those tanks as aid to communist and former colonial possessions that became countries in the 1950s and 60s. This tank actually served into the early 60s, and in some countries they're still there. I wouldn't want to use them with the old gun. I mean, from what I know about firearms and weapons and stuff, the barrel degrades after time. So I mean, these kind, you're talking like it was 80 years on some of them. Be afraid to use them, but I'm sure somewhere somebody's using this as a battle tank. I'll give you a look at the bottom of it because it's, I mean, I really enjoyed building this. And I'd have to say, if you're going to buy and build a Cobi tank for your first tank, I would go with this one because it's a very historical tank. You could read up and learn a lot about it. And I'm going to do videos later that explain more because I have this and I have that P39 that I built that's in Soviet markings. I'm going to work on, I'll do these tank and plane videos, is a Panther tank and an FW-190. I don't know which variant, but basically that tank and that plane went up against this tank and the Sturmovik dive bombers and the P-39s that we gave to the Soviet Union. Were at low level. They were fighting very vicious battles on the Eastern Front in Russia, then in Ukraine, and then in Eastern Europe. But what I'd like to do when I do that video is I'll have all these planes and tanks done. Rather than me just showing you this, I have another camera that I'm thinking of hooking up. Basically, I'll have them on a layout, and I'll show you how they used them, why they used them the way they did when they battled on the Eastern Front. Because fighting on the Eastern Front is a lot different than Western Europe. Let me give you another good look. T34 85. I'm sorry for the delay in between, and I have another F5 video coming out. I built a Norwegian version. Then after that, some other little videos, but as far as these, until I get the Tiger and the FW-190 completed, and I'd be able to show you then how they were utilized on the battlefield. A little bit more interesting than what I'm normally doing with this, but there you go, T34 85. And I've done this in under 10 minutes. And hopefully I'll have more videos and hopefully that you like them. And thank you.